Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Resilience. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Thursday, May 15th, 2025, and the Boston Celtics, without their superstar max player, Jayson Tatum, giving you an Instagram photo from the hospital bed. It goes quick. Post-surgery, cast on the Achilles. The Celtics come out against the Knicks, with the Knicks trying to make the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. What a stinker. I want to tell you what goes on, how a team shows resilience when your superstar is injured. No team meeting is required. It is clear to players what needs to be done. We'll get to the Warriors and what was clear to them post-Curry. For the Celtics, they have the view as defending reigning NBA champions, that even without Jayson Tatum, that there is no reason in the world they cannot get past the Knicks, get past the Pacers, and give themselves a shot to win back-to-back titles. That's the mentality. The coaching staff gets together and thinks about rotations, game plans, what is going to change without Jayson Tatum. Going into the game, they have an idea of who's going to get the minutes. They distribute the minutes. They're thinking about what they run in order to get Jalen Brown, which is why we had our Nothing Personal pick of the day the way we did, which we'll get to later. But what do we do to get Jalen Brown in places where he can succeed? How do you cover up an injured player? Think about in baseball. I was thinking about this while watching the Knicks Celtics game. It struck me as they were coming out of the tunnel before the game even started. There's no Jayson Tatum. It just happened. He's in the hospital right now, but the show always goes on. It must always go on. And the players run out of that tunnel. They do their same pregame. I was looking to see if there was any indication of sadness or despair or woe is me. But no, the pregame ceremony, everything is the same. The fans, the building, rocking at the Garden in Boston. To me, it was very apparent early in this game, which is why we had the Celtics giving the 5.5 points, is that when you have an opportunity the way the Celtics do, you're going to have injuries. In baseball, how much do we talk about this? When your number one pitcher goes down, or your hitter has an oblique or some problem, or the hamate bone gets broken right as you're entering a big September, you don't stop. One of the things that fans do in sports media, one of the things that gets done commonly, and especially now that everyone's got a platform, and therefore what you hear about is the narrative, Tatum down, Celtics done. What's missing are people who can give you the insight into how the team actually feels. So I would speak to Paul Pierce and I'd say, hey, Daddy, your number one guy goes down. You're not packing it in. And the answer is, of course not. Derek White comes out, hits his first 4 3-pointers on his way to 34 points. And you realize that even without Porzingis, who we got to talk about Porzingis. I know if you're a Maverick or a Knicks fan, you're wondering, how is this even possible that Porzingis has a ring, which he got with Boston? He's got some sort of issue, but we're not being told what it is. Some sort of breathing issue, maybe. We're not exactly sure. We're not going to speculate, except we're going to say for sure that Porzingis was not playing well. So the Celtics bring in early Luke Kornet, who goes on to almost have a triple-double with points, rebounds, and blocks. simply had a phenomenal game, and Porzingis basically was not a factor at $60 million over 2 years. You'd like him to be a factor, but the reality is he's not able to. But think about the depth of a team like the Celtics. Derek White gives you 34. Jaylen Brown gives you 26. Kornet gives you the game of his life. And that's it. It literally, there was no coming back for the Knicks. And Knicks fans have come to believe that when you're down 14 points or down 20 points, it's not going to matter. They're going to win. That's not realistic over a long series. And we're now heading into game 6. It's a long series. It's funny how in a 7-game series, Coca, 4 and 5 is short, 6 and 7 is long. There's no medium series. What would be, it's a good question for the chat on Nothing Personal with David Samson. Is there a medium series in the NBA? It seems unlikely because we saw what happened in a 5-game series. That seems like way too quick. And by the time you're in 6, you're like, wait a minute, if it's 6, it might as well be 7. I was watching Jalen Brunson last night, and I was trying to think the last time I remember a superstar fouling out of a game. And I'm sure this is just a bias. I'm sure Michael Jordan fouled out of games or LeBron James. I just can't remember either of them ever fouling out of a game. They must have, I would assume. And I'm sure that if someone has a computer nearby, they could probably look up the number of times LeBron and Michael have fouled out of a game. Jalen Brunson picking up his 6th foul was problematic to me because what the referees do in the NBA, they know who's got how many fouls. And unless it is so obvious that there is nothing that you can do, here's an example. Jalen Brunson getting in Jaylen Brown's way, you can't call it on anyone but Jalen Brunson. 6th foul, 7 minutes left in the game, he's out. If Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart both reach in and Brunson's got 5 and Hart's got 3, they're going to call a foul on Hart. This is not just analysis. This is fact. This is how the referees call the game. Because fans and TV partners, you want your superstars in the game to the extent that it's possible. Jalen Brunson made it so it wasn't possible. And that's a bad strategy for the Knicks to employ. Almost as bad as Hacker Robinson. Mitchell Robinson hitting 6 free throws when you're being made fun of for not shooting free throws. That part made me smile big time. So now we head back for game 6 in New York at the Garden tomorrow. You got to assume that Brunson will not score 2 points the way he did in yesterday's third quarter, which marked really the end of the game. You got to assume that he's going to be able to play more than 33 minutes and not foul out. Coca, let me know if we get the answer during the course of this show on whether or not LeBron or Michael fouled out of a game. I assume the answer is yes, but I just don't remember it. The second game last night, I have no music I can play. Coca may have music. What's the music you play for Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors being eliminated from the playoffs, for Draymond Green not being fined any more than he was already fined after yesterday, when they fined him $50,000 for more inappropriate comments questioning the integrity of officials? What do you play, Coca, when Jimmy Butler was brought in and the Warriors were being talked about as true title contenders after getting HOTT in the regular season, only to be summarily dismissed once Curry went down with a hamstring? What is the music? Do you just play taps? What's the music you play for a franchise who just watched its window close? Regardless of whether Jimmy was signed to a 2-year extension, which he was, regardless whether Steph Curry is still signed, which he is, regardless of what Draymond Green may say about the team and the young players who they are starting to focus on, which he does, it is hard to argue that the Golden State Warriors are anywhere near the top of the Western Conference, the deep Western Conference, where the ascending Oklahoma City Thunder look to be at the top of the perch while the Nuggets are trying to force them to a deciding Game 7. So I'm watching the Timberwolves make it to the conference finals, and they remind me a little bit of the Dallas Stars, in that the Dallas Stars are 1 win away of making it to the conference finals for a second year in a row. People may not remember the Indiana Pacers. This is their second conference finals in a row. Do you remember the Minnesota Timberwolves in the conference finals last year against Luka and the Dallas Mavs? So this is their second conference finals in a row. This is a thing. People talk about parity. People talk about hope. I think the NHL is going to have 3 or 4 conference finalists the same as last year. The NBA, depending on what happens with Celtics Knicks, the Mavericks are out. The parity that you're talking about, the hope that you think you need, it may not be as available as you'd like. From a Warriors standpoint, they look at themselves and they've got to be realistic. If Steve Kerr is worth his weight in gold as a coach, he's got to be able to look at this team and realize that the way it's constituted simply wasn't good enough. But what he did is, after the game, he blamed the loss, not on how great Julius Randle was, and he gave you 29, or Anthony Edwards, he had another great game. But Steve Kerr has a different view of what happened, and I want you to hear it directly from him, because I'm not sure that either you or I am going to buy this at all.
Game is to ISO, get the ball into the paint, and then move it to generate shots. And they just made the decision not to leave our perimeter guys, even our non-shooters on the perimeter. They just stayed with them everywhere and made Jimmy play one-on-one. And because they have a lot of length and athleticism, it wasn't easy for him to get anything at the rim and in the paint. And obviously they've got Gobert back there, so they made things difficult on Jimmy. Once Steph went out, it changed everything for our whole team, but especially for Jimmy.
Steve Kerr sounds like someone broke the code, except it's the most elementary Watson-like strategy you could have. Make Jimmy Butler beat you because he's no longer capable of beating you, notwithstanding his comments that, hey, playoff Jimmy can come back whenever playoff Jimmy wants. Playoff Jimmy's ready to go, but he likes getting his teammates involved. All of that horse hockey that Jimmy Butler spewed, it turns out to be not accurate. In a game where you're down 3-1 and you've obviously got to get the win, Jimmy Butler took 11 shots. 4 for 11, ended up with 17 points. Explain to me the fact that what the T-Wolves did with the brilliant coaching, I guess they realized, hey, here's what we'll do. We're going to not leave the 3-point shooters open. I'm not sure why every team doesn't do that, but I digress. We're going to make an individual beat us one-on-one, and we're going to rotate defense when we've got a man in the middle, whether it's Rudy Gobert or Mitchell Robinson or someone with length and size. But we can't give teams all these open looks at 3 because, frankly, teams treat 3s like 2s, and the range of these shooters has just expanded like their biceps. I'm not willing under any scenario to tell you that what happened with Jimmy Butler during the course of this series post-game 1 was solely about a defensive strategic change by the T-Wolves. That is misleading. What happened to Jimmy Butler and the Warriors is they're not good anymore. And without Steph Curry, they are not even playoff worthy. With Steph Curry, barely playoff worthy. The best part about the Warriors being eliminated, because I will miss watching Steph Curry play, though I think I told you in a previous show, it didn't rise to a wait to see, but I told you with the hamstring, very unlikely he'd be back at all this series. They pretended, hey, he's doing some basketball warm-ups. Wait to see for game 6. And I was thinking to myself, there is no way that a grade 1 hamstring strain is good to go this quickly, but certainly we can release that. We can make it known to the players, hey, get this one, and you'll get your guy back. I have a different strategic view. I don't want the Timberwolves thinking, my God, we better win right now. So we got to give 200%, which of course you can't do. We got to give 100% because if we go to a game 6, Steph Curry might be back. But I think deep down, the T-Wolves knew that Steph Curry wasn't going to be back. It's like Boston. It's slightly less than Boston saying, oh, Tatum could be back. because we know we can't with a hamstring strain or a back issue or a shoulder impingement or a little thing making it your elbow not able to fully extend. Those are things that can be cured on a relatively quick basis, as opposed to when you're in the hospital getting the ACL repaired or the Achilles tendon. So Draymond Green, just to finish the Warriors season, I wanted to purposefully put a bow tie in the Warriors season through the lens of Draymond Green. He is the person who gets the most attention for his antics on and off the court. He's the one who told you, I'm not an angry black man, despite all evidence to the contrary. He was fined an additional $50,000. He's been fined over $990,000 in his career. It's really incredible, actually. And you're going to say, what's 990 grand when you've made $200 million? The answer is it's almost 1/200th, 0.5% of your net worth, because you have no control over yourself. Draymond Green did something that to me is suspension worthy and way more than a $50,000 fine. He was invoking the betting line and talking to the referees that their actions were impacting the ability for a team to cover or not cover a spread. That is the rumor about what Draymond Green did after he fouled out. And Shams on ESPN has the whole story. And if it's true, my issue is you got to go more than 50, because this is that third rail we talk about in baseball with Pete Rose. This is what we talk about that the NBA used to be stuck in, all sorts of scandals, the referee, Tim Donaghy. You could go on and on. You cannot have an active player saying that the referees are involved in the point spread and whether or not a team is going to cover. Think about that in the NFL and what the referees could do with pass interference or offensive holding, the ways they could control an outcome of a game. You cannot let it be known that referees are even considering that. It's not even a thought process. And for me, 50 grand was not the right number at all for what he did. But the good news is that you're done. Draymond Green gets to reset all his technical fouls. He got 5 techs this postseason. It's not like they played for 4 series. He got 5 techs. The new collective bargaining agreement calls for a suspension if you get 7 technicals in the postseason. He was 2 away, but he's going to stay 2 away. As a matter of fact, he's going to get reset to 0. Warriors are done. Celtics are alive. Today's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I'm going to give the National Football League, if I can, Coca. I'm going to stand up just very, very, very briefly if you're watching this live. A standing ovation to the National Football League. They did it. Those bastards did it again. They keep finding ways to make every day NFL Day. The NFL schedule got released yesterday. Yippee-ki-yay. How exciting. Now, instead of just knowing our opponents, we know the game times. We get to figure out who's got how many primetime games. How many games do they give to Deshaun Watson's Cleveland Browns? 0. How many games do they give to the Chiefs? 7. But that's not the excitement of the day. Somehow, the NFL created. Somehow. It's just incredible. It's like the Oscars and the Super Bowl wrapped up in one, because every team releases its own commercial about release day. I'm flummoxed. I'm jealous. My throat is closing over this feeling I get when I see Dave Portnoy getting up and doing the schedule release for the Patriots. I see all of these teams with their star-studded video, GV Max, SFX. It's just insane. But what happens when you give a team an opportunity to be creative? You could be the Ravens and do their schedule release as though it was Severance, for crying out loud. Or you could be the Colts, who have this amazing animation, and then all the work you did, because there was work done. erased in the snap of a finger. The Indianapolis Colts were forced to take down the video of their schedule release because when they were going over the Dolphins game, because that's one of their opponents, they showed Tyreek Hill swimming in the water as though he were a dolphin, getting arrested by the Coast Guard. And people on the internet decided that there was no fun to be made on Tyreek Hill's behalf. And therefore, we are canceling you, you Indianapolis Colts, and your video. And the Colts had no choice but to acquiesce, and they did it quick. That video that people have been working for months on was taken down and disappeared in an hour. Boy, we've lost our sense of humor, haven't we? Just as an industry, as a community, as a country, as a world. I grant you there's a lot of stuff to be serious about. There are a lot of existential crises occurring right now inside this old brain of mine. But a schedule release? Can't we laugh and enjoy how insane it is that the NFL got 32 teams to do all this? I can't even. It's like they're trying to top each other. Next, there's going to be some sort of award that the NFL gives to a team with the best marketing strategy and the best release video. Thank God we found out now that the Chiefs are opening the season against the Chargers in Brazil in one of their 7 primetime games. Thank God that CBS has the ability to start marketing and selling the Thanksgiving Day game immediately, because you're going to get the Chiefs and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. As I was looking at this, I was thinking to myself about how the NFL gets you. Just think about this stat, if you don't mind. Do you remember the NFL draft and the lead-in to the draft? We talked about it in this show, the number of mock drafts, the number of TV stations and podcasts covering it every day with special episodes. Everyone's watching the draft. More people watching the draft than you could possibly believe. The number one pick is the quarterback from Miami, Cam Ward, taken by the Titans. There's video. There's dabbing with Roger Goodell. Everything's great. And now, who's Cam Ward? The Titans have exactly the same number of primetime games that I do as a National Football League player. 0. So while you're suckered into being a part of the draft and everything that it involves, then you get the schedule release, which is hugely exciting. And there is an inability to market Cam Ward nationally because the broadcast partners couldn't give a tinker's damn about Cam Ward and the Titans. It's just not relevant. If the Titans are 13-3 going into week 17, could there be a flex job? Maybe. But where I'm standing, this is a great indication to you that when you're being sold something, it's always going to feel like what you're being sold is the most important thing, and that feeling of importance will last. That the feeling of importance will have oozed over your body and into your pores, and you will therefore be able to smell it and waif in it for months and years at a time in a row. Not the NFL. They want to stick and move. Draft, move on. Schedule release, done. One thing about the number of people watching these games, I feel like it's my responsibility to cover this every single time, so I'm going to, even though it's so hard for me to do and watch. Last season, there was a Thanksgiving Day game between the Giants and Cowboys. You may remember that it averaged 38.8 million people. And it got me into a panic attack because in a short baseball series like the World Series, that could outdraw like the total audience of the World Series. And football said to itself, well, that was fun, getting 38.8, which more than doubles what they get, average per game, which is still a number insane, like 17.5 million. What do we do now to up the ante? We've got to show growth. We're heading into new TV deals that are negotiated. We've got to show what we're doing in order to let our partners monetize their investment. Just think about how it works. When you license something, let's say you license a team, you license a game, you license a window, a moment. The reason why you license something is that you then get to sell against it and get to make the money back that you offered to the person doing the content who got money. They got their license fee. That's called the minimum guarantee. What the NFL does is they try to protect their rights holders who have given a minimum guarantee to all the owners and tries to take care of them. And that makes total sense because when you've got 38.8 million people watching the Giants-Cowboys game from last year, you say, by the way, our TV deal is so worth it because this window of Thanksgiving, it's only growing. And in order to guarantee that it grows, you put the two teams that will move the needle more than any other team. This slate of games that was released, Packers-Lions on Thanksgiving, Bengals-Ravens in the nightcap, the games on Christmas on Netflix with the Cowboys playing the Commanders. By the way, the Cowboys appear to me, Coca, to play so many Thursday games. Now, they only have 6 primetime games. They and the Eagles have 6, which ties for second behind the Chiefs with 7. It just feels like the Cowboys are playing on a lot of Thursdays. When you see Al Michaels all happy that the Thursday opponents aren't crap, it always made me happy because off-season does not guarantee anything during the season at all. It still might be crappy games. How do you know that the Lions at Vikings on Christmas is a good game? Do you know for sure that those teams are going to be what they were last year? I mean, the odds tell you they are, but you don't know until you get there. They gave Netflix the 2 games it wanted, Cowboys at Commanders, Lions at Vikings. That really takes care of the middle and eastern part of the country. It's such a complicated thing, this schedule release, that I just want to make sure that you stay with it, that every game on the slate and every time that a game is played is done with purpose. And the purpose is to get a return on investment to the broadcast partners to give them what they want. Think about this Thanksgiving Day, and I'm going to do, Coca, an official wait to see about the Thanksgiving Chiefs-Cowboys game. So this is official wait to see when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If not, we'll revisit it. Chiefs at Cowboys will surpass the 38.8 million people who watched Thanksgiving last year. Absolutely. But the average will be above even the 2022 Thanksgiving Day game, which was the highest ever. And that was a Giants-Cowboys clash that was 42.1 million. So I am booking the fact with a wait to see that's confirmed that the average viewership for that Thanksgiving Day game of Cowboys-Chiefs will be over 42.1 million people, showing that the NFL is continuing its hot streak. Not only is it maximizing revenue and getting franchises sold at record numbers, plus getting new stadiums built in various places, but also they are finding a way to actually add value to people who paid for a package, something that the NBA and MLB are working to do as well. I want to point out something that's happening with the Minnesota Vikings this year. It's never happened before. The Vikings are playing back-to-back international games. They are playing week 4 in Ireland and then week 5 in England. For those who don't know, Ireland and England are very close. They may be closer than, they're certainly closer than New York, LA. They're closer mostly than New York, Miami. It is not reasonable that the Vikings are going to go home after their Steelers game in Ireland. They will likely go right to England, or they may choose a different place in Europe to hold practice, but my guess is London is where most of the facilities are. You would never agree to back-to-back games unless you had agreement from the union for the players to be in Europe for that entire time, where you leave on Friday of week 4 and you don't come back till Sunday of week 5. You're pretty much 9 days away from family. When that happens, the Vikings will certainly offer families to ride on the team plane over to Europe. They will find a way to keep players driven, happy, satisfied, but they will not come back to the States. That, to me, is just a sure thing. The reason why the Vikings were asked to do this, that's what I've been trying to figure out. So I asked Pablo if he would find out, did the Vikings volunteer for this schedule? Or does the NFL look for a team and look for owners where there are chits owed back and forth and trying to understand what the actual jet lag impact would be coming back from 10 days in Europe? It's real, folks. Some people tell you it's a day per time zone until you are fully back and in action. The Vikings, who will have the opportunity to give data points to the NFL as the NFL tries to figure out, are we doing more? And the answer is they are doing more international games. They're not going to stop with the games that are scheduled this year. There's 7 of them. You know very well that their goal is to get to 1 a week, and they want to get to 18 games total. I'm telling you right now, Coca, there are going to be more international games next year. And depending on how the Vikings do, and my assumption is they're going to do just fine because they're professional athletes, and you do just fine even with jet lag, even when you feel a little sick, you keep going. What the NFL will do is take the success of this international slate. They will use it to build the international slate, and then they will use the Vikings clubhouse leaders and players who are on the union's head committees, and they will get word out to other players. NTB, not too bad. We can do this. The benefit of teams agreeing to play overseas for 2 weeks in a row should be, I shouldn't need to say it. The benefit is that when there is continuity, you have opportunity for promoters, even from different countries, to work together to get behind what is happening, what these games are. Too important a situation to have a team go back-to-back without their prior written approval and without NFL thinking this is the perfect team to send over there for 10 days. It will instruct our behavior going forward. All right, we come back. We're going to review. It's Thursday. I get to review my number 9 movie on my list of top 100 found at davidsamsonpodcast.com. And then we've got a Portland Trailblazers update. I'll get to all that after the break. Hi, it's David Samson. How are you? Welcome back to Nothing Personal. Thank you for downloading and rating and subscribing on YouTube. Thank you. I love Thursdays, not because it's the day before Friday, not because it's the day after Wednesday and we are on the way down the top of the hump. No. I love Thursdays because for 100 straight Thursdays, I get to review a movie in my top 100. I don't know what number we're up to, Coca. I don't know how long we've been doing this. For me, it seems like 40 weeks, but you may tell me it's only been 27 weeks, and we've only covered 27% of our top 100, which would leave 83 straight Thursdays. For crying out loud, hello, 2027. I love getting to rewatch the movies. I rewatched Dead Poets Society. I was trying to think as I was watching, knowing that I would talk about it today. Has there been a movie that hit me the way Dead Poets Society hit me that I've ever seen? And I had a few examples where there's some serious movies, some documentaries, some feel-good movies with love that always hit me right. I love rom-coms. You know this about me. But Dead Poets Society, I have discovered and willing to say is in a league of its own. Dead Poets Society is about a teacher. Sound like the Penguin lessons? Remember, I told you there's some similarities. A teacher joins a school to teach a bunch of boys and does it in a way that is different. He doesn't use a penguin to do it, but it's just different. His view of the education that these boys need, the ability to be given wings and be shown how to fly, the ability to teach a bird what a spike is on a patio. the ability to make it clear that we can do anything we want to do, no matter how high your goals are. You don't need to give up. Your parents may need to give up on the fact that you're not going to be a professional athlete, but you don't have to. Not yet. And this whole movie is about a bunch of boys who get together in this secret society, how they interact with their Professor Keating, but more importantly, and I believe spoiler alerts are totally fair game when a movie is this old, the way Dead Poets Society is. When you've got a death like you have of one of the students, you say to yourself, how can it be that a parent could be like this? And then we get reminded time and time again of what parents do to children mentally and physically and spiritually. And then you realize that what kids are trying to do is please their parents. That's all. Whether their parents can ever be pleased or not, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the affirmation from their parents. You're good enough. You are smart enough. You're pretty enough. And in Dead Poets Society, one father did not do that to his son, and it hit me hard. What the son had to do in order to come to grips with his situation hit me deep. It's called Dead Poets Society, and I strongly encourage you, if you've seen it, watch it again. If you haven't seen it, I'm not sure there's a movie I recommend more than Dead Poets Society in terms of depth and emotion. I mean, there's more entertaining movies. I tell you to watch Dumb and Dumber if you want a belly laugh. Tell you to watch Bridges, Madison County if you want to cry. Dead Poets Society is both. There is humor, there is tears. Go check it out. All right, Coca, random number generator, hit it. This will tell us what movie we're reviewing next week. It will be one of the top 100. And The Way. Oh, God, Coca, you have no idea. Where is The Way ranked? 77. 77. I'm going to rewatch The Way, and The Way could move. That's Martin Sheen. He's walking El Camino in Spain. Wow. I may have to say the same thing to you next Thursday about watching this movie. It completely impacts you in every way. Thank you, Coco, for letting me watch that again. I went on Portland radio the other day and was talking about baseball in Portland. And a subject came up about basketball in Portland and whether or not there was going to come a time when Steve Allen, wow, cut that out because that's even old for me. 4869. There's going to come a time in Portland when the estate of Paul Allen will have to sell that team. When Paul Allen passed away, he made it very clear what was going to happen with the teams he owned, Seahawks, Trailblazers. They will be sold and the proceeds will go to charity. In the meantime, the franchises will be a part of my estate, and that part of my estate will be run by my sister, Jody Allen. But then Jody Allen will sell these teams immediately. Seahawks, Sounders, etc. Well, Paul Allen died quite a few years ago, and still owning the Seahawks, still owning the Sounders, which are not currently for sale yet, and the Trailblazers. And finally, what I said would happen has happened. While it wasn't an official wait to see, we covered this and said that team's got to be sold. It is a violation of the estate, of the agreements, of the will, of whatever testament and testimony Paul Allen may have given at whatever time he gave it, that these teams should be sold. But Jody Allen, she liked it. She liked owning a team. She didn't like talking to the media, but she liked owning a team and said, we're going to wait. We're going to wait till it's good and ready and baked. Well, guess what? Do you remember what her statement was? A time will come when that change, given Paul's plans to dedicate the vast majority of his wealth to philanthropy, but estates of this size and complexity could take 10 to 20 years to wind down. Let me give you some advice. If your estate takes 10 to 20 years to wind down, you had the wrong estate attorney. There is no preordained timeline by which the teams must be sold. That is true, but there is also no reason why they haven't. So now, the Trailblazers announced that Paul Allen's estate has begun the process to find a new owner. Hallelujah. The guy's been dead for 7 years. Who's going to buy the Trailblazers and at what money? I love when people come out public and try to quash any talk of anything they'd be doing. Phil Knight did it yesterday in a way that absolutely made me laugh. Phil Knight came out and just basically said, I'm not interested in buying the Trailblazers. I'm old. He said 5 years ago when I was a younger man, by the way, he's 87. 5 years ago when I was a younger man, I had a great interest in being a part of the Trailblazers. However, at my current age, I can confirm that I no longer have interest in acquiring the team. My sole great interest is 2 feet on the floor at the start of every day and the occasional dollop. No, that's not his quote. Why did that make it into the rundown? All he said is, I can confirm that I no longer have interest in acquiring the team. Don't make fun of an 87-year-old. We've got one octogenarian listening to this show right now. And when you're octogenarian plus 7, you're thinking to yourself, do I really need the aggravation of owning a team? Have I not given enough to my community? I was there 5 years ago offering a couple billion, but no, the estate said we're going to hold it. And there are some charities that may benefit from that because the way NBA franchise valuations have gone, it certainly would appear that they're going to sell for more than what Phil Knight was offering. I wonder if that's at the end of the day why Phil Knight did not want to buy the team. I don't know about his health, but certainly he has the ability to surround himself with people who would operate the team. Hold on 1 second. 1 second, Coca. I'm doing a quick thing with my resume here and sending this out to Phil Knight. All right. So he needs someone to run the team. And then he needs some finance people to handle the finance. And then he needs some basketball people to try to figure out how to get Chauncey Billups to win. I think he should do it. Right now, the Blazers are going through an entire sales process that's going to take a long time. He was the natural buyer, but we're going to get another announcement here shortly from another guy who will be rumored and leaked to buy a team. I love that name to be Mark Cuban. Him leaving the Mavericks for good the way he has and buying another team and beating the Mavericks, it would be a chef's kiss. Not going to happen. What about our usual guy? Jeff Bezos. Are you stepping up to buy the Trailblazers? Because you, my friend, are the stalking horse that is used by every team for sale to get the price up. You are every team's Jeter. There's got to be a rumor about you and about you buying this team, or else the Trailblazers will not be maximizing their value. I think that's likely going to happen here, is that you're going to read about some rumors about some people being interested, because the goal here is to get this team sold at above the Mavericks amount. While the Trailblazers do not seem on paper, likely falsified by certain magazines, to be worth 3.5, my argument is they absolutely will not be sold for under 3.5 billion. The NBA cannot have a transaction coming off the Celtics transaction of 6.1 going to 7.3 that doesn't result in the rising of the tides of every other franchise, the rising in the asset value of every other franchise. Otherwise, the whole Celtics deal is for naught. That's the whole thing that you hope for in every transaction, that every other team will get the benefit of that transaction. Portland is going to sell for more than 3.5, and you can book it. You can put it as a wait to see. I think it's my second wait to see of the day. Portland will sell for more than the Mavericks. Nothing personal pick of the day, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Tonight, we've got the critical Game 6 between the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Denver Nuggets are back on their home court trying to even the series and send it back to a deciding Game 7 on Sunday. The Nuggets are home underdogs when they have shown that if all of Murray, Gordon, and Porter do not fall and fail at once, that not only do they belong on the court with the Thunder, but more than that, they can beat the Thunder. It is hard to imagine that they will go out with a whimper at home. If you're the Thunder, you are giving 4.5 points and you are saying, give me my rest. I want to be rested the way Minnesota is going to be rested. I've got to end this series. Akshav. But the Nuggets getting 4.5 at home, that is way too tempting. Odds are subject to change, but when DraftKings says 4.5, and I tell you it's a bet, it's a bet. Nothing personal. Pick of the day presented by DraftKings is Nuggets plus 4.5 versus the Thunder. Yesterday was a little rough. I had it. I had Celtics giving 4.5 to the Knicks. That's a win. I had Jalen Brown over 29.5 points. Why? Why, David? Because I thought I was smarter than the books. I really did. The books had Jalen Brown's over under. What did they have it at, Coca? 25.5. Guess what he scored? 26. I knew that Jalen Brown would have to score in order for the Celtics to win, and I knew the Celtics were going to win. It seemed like the perfect bet because we were getting plus 200, but we lost. And then we did Corbin Day. Are you guys worried about Corbin Day because he's pitching so well? Part of Corbin Day is knowing that sometimes they're going to play the Rockies. Now, we had the Rockies plus 210. The reality is, of course, the Rangers crushed. Corbin has a 3.35 ERA through 7 starts with the Rangers. This is not the Corbin of the Nationals, who was so stinky. This sounds like a guy in a 1 year, make me look good so I can get another big deal. But given his age and lack of production, we're not letting 7 starts dictate our change. There will be no change in our philosophy. We had Corbin Day yesterday. We had the Rockies, and the Rangers won. So we are now 58-61 heading into tonight's pick of Nuggets plus 4.5 versus the Thunder. I would like to congratulate Michael Hill. Yes, you know Michael Hill and I have a relationship. He was our president of baseball operations. He was our GM. He was our AGM. I worked with him from early 2003, late 2002, all the way through 2017. He now works for Major League Baseball. He runs all on-field operations. He's in charge of the umpires. And he was named the GM of the USA World Baseball Classic team with Mark DeRosa as his manager. An announcement was made 2 days ago, which caught my attention because it's something that the USA had to have. Paul Skeens has agreed to pitch in the WBC for the United States. That is a huge win for Mike Hill, a huge win for Major League Baseball, and a huge risk for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I am not telling you there's a correlation because I'm the one sitting on the committee who told you there's no correlation between World Baseball Classic injuries. Edwin Diaz, it was just bad luck. Guys who have sore arms, guys who ramp up too quickly in March and then all of a sudden are a problem in September. I have not seen any evidence, and we've got all the data that shows pitching in the World Baseball Classic will get you injured. What I do know is that winning for Rob Manfred is very, very important. The USA, you may remember, lost to Japan in the final game at Marlins Park 2 years ago, whatever number of years ago it was, when Ohtani struck out Mike Trout. Truly an amazing end to a game. But the commissioner's office said to themselves and to Mike Hill, hey, just so you know, happy GMing, but you got to find a way to get all the best players because we are not going to lose to Japan or the DR or PR or VZ. We're not doing it. Whether or not Paul Skeens should pitch in the World Baseball Classic is a different story. If he is not signed to a long-term contract, which right now he is not, there is risk. And I don't see the correlation, as I told you, but what I do know is for a power pitcher like Skeens, if you want him blowing 100 in March, there's no risk if you get him going earlier. You can't start his ramp up with the rest of the pitchers in spring training. You've got to make sure he's on an off-season throwing program. You've got to make sure that he's seen hitters pitching off a mound, recognizing that to be ready for true competition, the way the WBC is, it is not a spring training atmosphere or a spring training buildup required. This is regular season stuff. The Pirates ought to start looking out for that. Do not pay attention to those who think that the Pirates need to or will trade Paul Skeens, because they're not going to. They still have multiple years of control of him, and they're not going to waste it. For those of you hoping that Paul Skeens ends up somewhere else, yeah, I'm talking to you, reporter at ESPN. But those of you dreaming that the Pirates are not good enough, Bob Nutting will look right in your face, keep Paul Skeens, and say, hey, you're an insider? It's just business. You got this one wrong. This is nothing personal.